So thanks everybody for coming to the Go Meetup for December. It's always the very best people that show up, especially in a holiday month where everybody's got a lot going on. So I really appreciate everybody coming down, and I'm really, really excited about this topic. Cover a few things before we get into it. First off, plug on the Slack. There is always the jobs channel, and if you're hiring, you're looking for a job, or just want to get, right, this is, I also want to plug, Advent of Code is happening. We have our private leaderboard, and so if you want to join in on that and have some good discussion, you don't have to do it and go, although a lot of people are. I'm doing it in Rust this year, so I guess I don't belong in this meetup anymore.
Do you have to do that?
No, Mariah usually does.
Be careful coding in Rust, it's addictive.
Yep, so anyway, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in there, especially Advent of Code this month. It's called Women, it's named after Women Who Go in the Slug, but this is where you go to submit for CFPs for this meetup. Submit anything. I haven't cleared this on anybody, but I want to have a new slogan, no serious talks rejected. I'm not going to necessarily commit anybody to the whole hour or 45 minutes or whatever. So I'm seriously, no legitimate sincere talks rejected. We might work with you or whatever, but
there is an option to submit lightning talks there as well, so you can specify the length of the talk. So yeah, whatever Carson says is true.
I don't know. I just love to have that as a slogan for a meetup and see what happens. So I figure we're just going to do it because no one's going to stop me. So that's it. That's all I have. We're going to do. You guys, is this order fine? First, autoscaling. Okay. So Venkata is going to talk about autoscaling Kinesis and Go. And then Kevin's going to talk about consumer-driven contract testing, which I'm super excited about, both of these, really. And we want to give a big shout-out and thanks to Route for sponsoring the meetup and bringing us all delicious pizza, even more pizza than we expected. So we really, really appreciate them going above and beyond. And you can talk without doing that, but if you want to bring pizza when you talk, that's also accepted. So, awesome. I'm going to hand it over to Venkata. Sure.
Share.
Yep. You just share, and I'll stop sharing mine. And I'll grab my drink so I don't accidentally get it filled. I know I will. Leave it there.
And you say your name Venkata? How do you say it?
Yeah, Venkata. My name is Venkata KM Chaitanya, so it's very long. Even my company finds it hard to pronounce my name.
Okay.
You know how many they are. John calls him the man with 5 names.
And how long have you been at Route?
1.6 years now.
Okay. Said like an engineer, 1.6 years.
Yeah. So thanks for coming, everyone. So today I'm going to speak about Autoscaling Kinesis using Go. And I'm Venkata Chaitanya. So quick intro about myself. So I'm a senior software engineer at Route. Been with Route since 1.6. I need to change that though. And I have been doing Go since 4 years. So I want to give everyone a quick intro about Route. So Route is an app where you can track everything that you order in a single place. So assume this case, before Route, you order few things, multiple things, and you get multiple tracking numbers. And to see where the package is at, you go to that carrier site, put the tracking number. You have to repeat the same thing for all the tracking numbers that you have. With Route, you just have a single place, and whenever the package status changes, you get alerted. Yeah. And also, Route also does protection, so which is called resolve. So Route has partnered with several merchants, and whenever you purchase something from them, so if you buy the insurance part, your item is lost, stolen, or damaged, you can file claim on that. And Engage is basically the same thing. So as we Route partnered with different merchants, we have this special section in the app where you can browse all the merchants and see the curated contents of those merchants. And also with that, each merchant also has a story on why he chose to build that product and things like that.
And so it's a consumer app, then, yeah?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we now have 350 plus employees, and many of them are from bigger companies like Fang, and also from startups as well. These are the Glassdoor ratings. Like I have been in Route for like 1.6 years. I'm very happy. I might not show it on my face though, but I'm happy. And Route is like hiring like crazy at the moment. If anyone wants to apply, reach out to me or Kevin. Kevin is the hiring manager for the Tracker team as well. So the first question is like, how the heck do we like track packages? Okay, yeah. So basically, when you download the Route app, you sign up, connect your email. With some advanced filtering techniques, we basically grab the emails that contain like order information and try to like pass information from that emails, like order number, tracking number. If that email contain like any images about your order, those also will be scraped and will show as like contextual information in the app. Sorry. So, as I said, like we are scraping. So scraping is a hard problem, and there is always room for improvement. So Mark Miller is the one who initially like developed this scraping system, and lately, like there are some instances where sometimes we scrape the wrong thing. Like instead of tracking number, we scrape the order number. And Mark Miller came up with this interesting approach where he wants to apply this machine learning algorithm to these emails and also like to help like better classify this information and better scrape this information. So the main hero of that particular architecture is Kinesis. So Kinesis is a solution offered by AWS to process streaming data at like massive scale. So with Kinesis, like you can, like it can take data from any number of sources, and it also can push data to like any number of destinations. And while doing that, and it does it in real time, and while doing that, it also does like apply some transformations. Let's say you wanna add some things to your data that is going out to the consumer, or you wanna delete something, modify some text. It does everything in real time, and it's quite a powerful tool to have. But this is my favorite quote from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility and problems as well. So we found a few problems with Kinesis. So the main problem is like, so in Kinesis, when you push data to it, you're essentially pushing that into a shard. So shard is like a unit of capacity in Kinesis. One shard can access like either 1 MB of data or like 100 records per second. And Route, when we like decided to use this, like we were bypassing this limit pretty easily. Like one shard is like very small for us. Like we get like millions of emails every day. And the approach that the engineer designed like is not cutting the solution. So we were either over provisioning the shards, meaning like we are not using all the shards efficiently, or we were either under provisioning and were getting throttled. So we were looking out for solutions on like how to bypass this, and also AWS doesn't have any native way to like scale this. So AWS also has this blog where they said like, okay, we don't have like automated way of scaling this, but like this is the approach. And they also had this sample scaling repository that they want to like put into like the consumers' accounts to like do this scaling thing. But there were a few problems with that as well. So it was very hard to incorporate into existing projects. So at Route, each team manages their own infrastructure and service and infrastructure. So, but this solution was like, put this in your AWS account and it will scale all the Kinesis streams in your AWS account. But there will be some teams where they would say like, I'm happy with what I have, I don't want to scale. So this was like and to incorporate the solution, I had to like put some filters to ensure that like all Kinesis streams were not affected. So that was one main problem. The other problem was the code base was like pretty unreadable. The core code that was written in that was written like a Java developer with like being just out of school. And it took me like an hour to figure out like what exactly they were doing in that repository. The other thing was AWS recently launched this new V2 SDK of Go, which was like, which improves performance on the V1 SDK and has like fewer allocations as well. But that particular repo was still using the V1 SDK. I mean, it has not been updated since like quite some time. So I decided that like it's the time to like take that matter into our own hands. So what we did was like we built this project called Nemesis, which is like an auto-scaling mechanism for Kinesis. So it's a pluggable solution. So it's like small Terraform module that you can like import into your project. And it also uses the latest AWS SDK. The code is modularized and tradable. So recently I have been reading this book called Architecture by Bob Martin. It gave like me a different perspective on like how to architect the code. And this project is basically like built on like those kind of principles. So Cloud is planning to open source this. We are still figuring out like the licensing and the legalities of this. But,
So right now it's only internal, but you're trying to get it open sourced?
probably in this month. So Nadelson, like he is one of the staff engineer at Cloud. So he is working with the legal teams.
It sounds like it's gonna happen.
Yeah, this month. Cool. Yeah. So how does Nemesis work? As I said, like it's a small Terraform module. So it has like two CloudWatch alarms, up alarm and a down alarm. So what happens is these alarms constantly monitor the Kinesis stream. So as I said, like one shard can take like 100 records a second and or 1 MB of data per second. So we are like constantly monitoring that, and whenever like a certain threshold, like 80% threshold is met, alarm, like for example, like I'll take an example of scale up here. So whenever 80% of that scale up alarm is hit, and SNS is like a notification service of Amazon, so it gets triggered, and it will indirectly trigger a AWS Lambda function that will see if it is like a scale up alarm or a scale down alarm. So if it is a scale-up alarm, what it will do is it will increase the shards using the shard count API, and it will also update the alarm to like match the new shard count thresholds. So as the shards increase, the threshold also goes up. And similarly, it is the same thing with the scale-down alarm. So all solution is battle tested and is like working pretty well in Cloud. So I don't know if it's called a bad timing though, but recently in reInvent, AWS launched Autoscaling. But we wanted that in September, but so we saw like a few of the comparisons like on like the pricing, because like Route is a startup and like price that we spend is like really important. So these are the metrics that were pulled from AWS cost calculator. For example, like 300 records per second of 3 KB of size. So for the regular Kinesis thing, it is going to cost around like $208 a month. But with the new thing that they launched on reInvent, it's going to cost like $918 a month.
Oh, so it's still not as good as what you have.
Yeah, and like Terraform also doesn't support it yet. So there is like nearly a $700 difference. Yeah.
So what is it with no scaling?
What?
How much money are you saving your company like before even any auto scaling? Like, because you're saying you had to over provision a lot.
Yes.
You think you're saving like
So,
thousands of dollars a month? Like,
not really. So we were just testing this all thing in like staging account. So even in staging, we were like getting throttled. Like we were not like spending too much, but we saw the problem very quickly.
Oh, okay.
Which might happen.
So you identified it even like before it was a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool.
So when like in Route, like whenever we launch something, like it's like a gradual rollout. We don't like flip the switch. So most of the problems like we can like identify it over there. So Nemesis currently costs like scale up alarm is like 10 cents a month. So if for dual alarms, it's like 0.20 cents a month. And SNS pushes to Lambda is like $0.09 per gigabyte. And Lambda execution, like for 200 for a million times, when you invoke Lambda, it's gonna cost you like 0.20. So it's Nemesis is gonna cost like 0.49 a month. So yeah. So the idea is that like even if Amazon doesn't offer anything for us out of the box, the idea with Nemesis that helped me understand is like we can even do it by ourselves. I kind of think like internally they are also doing something like this, but yeah, it's $900 is too expensive. And yeah, that's about it.
I have a question about so you said Nemesis is a Terraform module.
Right.
And so is the actual, what is the Terraform module doing? Is it installing those Amazon components?
Yes, so it creates the two CloudWatch alarms here.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see the cursor though, but
Yeah, we can.
just hold on. Yeah, so it's going to create those two scale up and scale down alarms on a SNS topic and the Lambda function that is written in Go.
Okay, and then so it creates those topics. How do you get the Terraform module to play nicely with the Lambda changing the topics? So if if you create the scale up, scale down for 10, and then it does it set it back, or how do you do
Yeah,
it?
so there is something called as like life cycle
Okay.
on Terraform where you can say like, for these things, don't actually change the state.
Okay.
So
So you're just ignoring those changes when you apply.
yeah, and that's part of the reading as well. So because the Nemesis is only like the alarms, SNS topic, and Lambda. So whoever is like using that module needs to have set that like life cycle thing on their Kinesis stream because we don't control their Kinesis streams.
Cool. Can I ask you an operations question?
Sure.
Yeah, I just heard you mention, I was typing down notes as you went. You said all teams manage their own infrastructure. So do you have an infrastructure team at all?
We do, yeah. So that team is only they only deal with like extensive things. So even though like each team manages their own infrastructure, they are not given like the root user access.
Okay.
They are only given like certain number of privileges. If those privileges are not meeting the conditions for the team, then we will call the SRE team to like satisfy those things.
Okay. So the SRE will manage those permissions and maybe like keeping the environment clean, I guess, and, okay, cool.
Do they each get their own account then? And if so, how are you accessing services? Is it privately or is it just via public IPs?
So it's very different. So like there are like few teams that they have their own AWS accounts, but like most of the teams use the shared AWS account.
You don't have to deal with trying to connect
Yeah.
on the VPCs together.
Yeah. So there is this email team because like as we are like scraping emails, so that team gets their own AWS account basically to like make sure that like if something wonky happens here, that team is still.
Don't get blacklisted on your production.
You always put the shady stuff in a different account
Emails,
first.
always put emails somewhere else.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
Thank you.